Welcome back. We'll start off in Africa. A tropical moist broadleaf forest that comes second only to the Amazon in its marvelous greenery is the Congo rainforest. But the power of Africa's majestic forest is experiencing aggressive logging within its folds, and according to Greenpeace, an area of the forest the size of a football pitch is being destroyed every 2 seconds. The Democratic Republic of Congo takes pride in recent steps to prevent illegal logging in its vast equatorial forests, but experts argue these measures are far from enough to stop a thriving business. In the Congo River port of the capital Kinshasa, which serves Atlantic routes, Environment Ministry agents have since last year delivered hundreds of certificates of traceability, spelling out the origin and transport details of logs. The precious documents have opened the way for legal exports of valuable hardwoods mainly to the European Union and to China, while regular buyers and suppliers say that in the past, it has been much more difficult to trade in uncertified lumber.
La fraude n'est pas simplement le bois qu'on coupe derrière la case.
Before, I bought logs from unofficial sources, but now we're being more and more restricted by environmental taxes, the general monitoring services and other services. So this time I decided to come here and buy regulated timber.
Pour travailleurs forestiers, ça c'est aussi de la fraude, c'est du bois illégal.
Timber monitors operate throughout the port, but two British non-governmental organizations behind recent surveys hold that this wood is only a part of what is cut every day, mostly by artisanal loggers.
Ici et là, il y a des cas isolés de bois qui sortent.
There are isolated cases here and there of timber being illegally exported to European markets. We say isolated because structurally, globally, we have brought things in line with the law.
Nous avons réduit le bois congolais sous la droite ligne de la légalité.
Almost the size of Western Europe minus Scandinavia, the DRC accounts for more than 60% of the dense forest in the Congo Basin, often described as the planet's second green lung after the Amazon. But deforestation has increased significantly in the past 15 years, according to the Central Africa Forest Commission, an intergovernmental regional body that works for sustainable management of threatened woodland. The independent British organization Resource Extraction Monitoring, investigating at Kinshasa's request, reported last year that forest management in the DRC was in a state of widespread illegality despite all efforts undertaken by the state. President Joseph Kabila's government introduced a new forest code in 2002 intended to promote sustainable forest management, including rights of traditional users, and to introduce fairer allocation of timber concessions. Innocent Juboket, who works for the WWF, says that the government has made real efforts, but it is too early to evaluate the impact of certification.
The problem isn't just trees being felled secretly, but that this wood is cut from the forest outside the dedicated area, and that is deception. And timber that doesn't guarantee the best conditions for forest workers is also unfair. It's illegal timber.
Beaucoup de services sont là. Cette fois-ci, je me suis décidé de venir ici à l'ONATRA pour jeter des grilles qui est vraiment en ordre.
The Environment Ministry is unable to produce reliable data on the results of the process, which is meant to guarantee to consumers that wood has been through legal channels from the moment it was cut to its arrival. The foreign watchdogs commended the government's efforts and intentions, but the Chatham House urged Kinshasa and the European Union to go on working towards a new legally binding trade agreement to promote legal logging. And to North Africa, talks in Cairo aimed at securing a fresh ceasefire in Gaza are under renewed strain, with both sides in the conflict issuing warnings. Palestinian negotiators said they would leave on Sunday if Israel did not attend the sessions without preconditions.
Thousands of protesters in France marched through the streets of the capital, calling for an end to violence in the Gaza Strip. They carried models of corpses draped in the Palestinian flag and graphic posters.
For us, it's not just about theoretical pictures, it's real life. They're real people, real friends who live there and who are suffering.
They gathered south of Paris after negotiations to extend a 3-day ceasefire between Israel and Palestinian militants failed. The Palestinian group Hamas rejected the truce, as Israel refused to lift the blockade on the Gaza Strip and the fighting once again resumed. Hamas sent a salvo of rockets into Israel, while Israeli forces responded with airstrikes. There were also demonstrations in Yemen. Protesters called on Egypt to open its border crossing with Gaza and ease the economic hardship. They held model rocket launchers and guns, shouting "Freedom for Gaza." In Germany, protesters opposed Israel's month-long offensive. Around 1,000 people marched through central Berlin.
It makes you very sad, angry, especially because we don't have the feeling that the German government is taking the position which it should. Of course it's difficult for Germany because of the country's history. But what's just is just, and it's clear that what's happening in Gaza is unjust.
Replica coffins were laid out on the streets representing the civilians, nearly 2,000, who died over the past few weeks in Gaza. Scores of Israeli soldiers have also been killed in the fighting.
And to the Middle East, 48 people were killed when a small passenger plane crashed in the western part of the Iranian capital, Tehran. The aircraft, which was heading to the eastern city of Tabas, went down in the residential area near Mehrabad airport on Sunday morning. Passengers included 5 children. Plane crash is blamed on its aging aircraft and poor maintenance record. Iran is still flying planes bought before the Islamic Revolution in 1979. International trade sanctions that were imposed after the hostage crisis, during which 52 Americans were held hostage in Tehran for 444 days. Many Iranian planes are fitted with unofficial spare parts. Turkish voters voted yesterday in the first direct presidential election in the country's history. Former Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan won the election in a clear win of 52% ahead of 2 opposition party candidates.
Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan says he will turn the largely ceremonial post of president into the country's executive powers if he wins. His ruling Justice and Development Party, AKP, has vowed to seek changes to the constitution to give the president more powers. This could give Turkey a presidential system similar to that of France, rather than the current parliamentary democracy. The post of president, which is largely a ceremonial role, was previously chosen by Turkey's parliament. Some 53 million Turks are eligible to vote. 3 candidates are vying for the position. If none of the candidates gets above 50% of the vote, a second round will be held on August 24th. Erdogan has been the prime minister since 2003 and is barred from standing for the office again.
Thousands of people braved the rain to take part in a peace march in the capital city of the Central African Republic. This is after violence that shattered a sense of calm that had reigned in the capital a number of weeks, following more than a year of brutal violence, rights abuses and looting. Addressing the crowd, Transitional President Catherine Samba-Panza said a new government would be formed in the coming days.
As part of an agreement, Samba-Panza's government resigned on Tuesday in order to make way for one that is more inclusive. Despite the peace accord, tensions remain high in the country, where several Seleka militiamen have been killed in the last week in a clash with French peacekeepers in the north. On Saturday, violence ensued, shattering a sense of calm that had reigned in the capital for a while. According to residents, rival vigilante militias in the Central African Republic clashed with heavy weapons overnight in the capital Bangui. The gunfire had subsided by midday, but the situation remained tense in northern suburb of Bangui, where the fighting took place. The fighting is blamed on the anti-Balaka rebels. Shortly after the fighting ended, thousands of people took part in a peace march in the city.
We have accepted to come here. Let us accept peace in this country. We've shown the entire world that in this country there are Catholics, Protestants, Muslims, Kibangos and all other religious denominations. Let us accept to hold together hand in hand. Let us love one another.
Representatives of the Seleka rebel coalition and anti-Balaka forces signed a tentative ceasefire in July aimed at ending violence in the country. An officer with an African Union peacekeeping force said its soldiers had been deployed to the entrances of the troubled suburb. The officer said 2 people had been killed in what appeared to be a settling of scores. A traditional stronghold of the anti-Balaka militia, Roy Rabe, has for months been the scene of numerous clashes between the militias which held power from March 2013 until January this year, when a power-sharing agreement was signed.
A typhoon continued sweeping through Japan on Sunday, leaving 1 person dead and more than 50 injured. The typhoon forced the authorities to order the evacuation of more than 1 million people as the powerful typhoon hit southwest Japan.
Japan's meteorological agency issued a warning for heavy rain in central Japan, prompting 2 towns to order about 500,000 residents to evacuate because of feared flooding from swollen rivers. Local authorities, mainly in western Japan, issued evacuation advisories to nearly 1.5 million people in total. The agency predicted heavy rain in Tokyo today. More than 400 flights were cancelled, stranding thousands of holidaymakers at airports across the country, and at least 143 more flights were cancelled on Sunday. Typhoon Halong comes a month after Typhoon Nyogori killed several people and left a trail of destruction in southern Japan.
That story brings us to the end of the Bulletin on Africa this morning. Coming up next, we'll take a look at other stories taking the lead in the dailies in Kenya in our segment Media Watch.